Well. Hello, and welcome. To move my mic over here. Hello, and welcome to night 9 of the 12 Beers of Christmas Craft Beer Experience presented by Brewvana. I'm your host, Brian, and thanks again for joining us for another stream. Night 9 of 12, 3 more to go, and we're going strong. 4 more to go if you count tonight. Happy to have my buddy Isaac back for another night as my co-host. Isaac, how's it going?
Living the dream. Great to be here again. Glad to be here for night 9.
I asked this of one of our earlier co-hosts, but do you have a favorite Christmas cookie? One that you pick out in particular?
I'm not a big cookie fan. I don't have much of a sweet tooth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If I had to choose, though, and this is just because it's fresh, our neighbor baked us these. There's a name for them. I don't know what they're called, but they've got like the little Hershey's Kiss on the inside. They're tiny. They're round.
Thumbprints.
Whatever they are, they're good.
They're called thumbprints.
Wouldn't go out of my way, but like if they're there, that would be my choice.
Yeah, I think that's what they're called. Buckeyes. Thank you, James in the chat. I was gonna say Mom in the chat if you can help me out what they're called. But yeah.
Yeah, they're good. What about you?
I'm a sugar cookie with icing, just classic, especially if it's got the sprinkles on it that are shaped like Christmas trees. All about the festive sugar cookies.
They double those up for every holiday.
Full disclosure, my mom gave me a bag of cookies last night before I came home to do the stream, and I ate those promptly after we did the stream. So I enjoyed some sugar cookies just last night. But it is another night, and that means another beer and another guest. We'll be talking to our guest about the featured beer and brewery. Just remember, everyone, please set your chat to everyone so that we can all see your comments and keep your questions in the Q&A section. We have our chat moderator back tonight after after a couple of days. Adrian, how's it going? Adrian hasn't said hi yet. Do you want to unmute yourself and say hi to the folks at home?
Hey, not sure if you could hear me, but hello, howdy, good evening.
The eye in the
Happy
sky.
New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Adrian. And Adrian, great call out for the classic chocolate chip cookie in the chat. Adrian will be moderating the chat, so he'll be reminding you, throw your questions into the Q&A, and he'll be highlighting some great questions and comments for us to check out. Again, sorry we couldn't get to every question last night. There were so many. We'll try to work through more of your questions tonight, but there's always so many good questions in there that it makes it hard for us. So, no promises.
And last night, Brian, you were very eager to get into your beer. Actually, I think you cracked it before we even announced that we're getting into it. So without further ado, tonight we're going to be enjoying this Vermillionaire from Parish Brewing out of Broussard, LA. And tonight we're happy to be joined by Parish's head brewer and master cicerone, Ryan Spare. How's it going, Ryan?
It's going well. Happy to be here. And I must say, you two are looking very festive today.
We've changed since you saw us last. This happens every time we meet guests.
We do this to all our guests, though. The old switcheroo.
The old 1-2 punch.
Yeah, y'all changed between the tech check and now.
That's right. Ryan, so 1, welcome, and 2, what would you like to and what can you tell us about this beer?
So this beer, Vermillionaire, was a beer that we produced. A couple things about it. So the big thing is the terpenes. That's kind of the first thing everyone notices. So it was kind of a proof of concept. So we worked with a company that produced Citra terpene. So they're basically taking the profile of Citra hops and taking all of those aromatic compounds and basically building that profile by combining all these terpenes. And then that enables us to just add it to the beer so we can boost the aroma profile more than if you just added hops.
I've got to say, this is outstanding.
It's interesting, huh? Like it definitely tastes like the fruitiness of it is
I'm
just elevated to another level compared to like if we just use regular hops.
right. I'm not sure if I'm eating a mango and then maybe an orange, and then there's all sorts of great things happen. I'm on a roller coaster here.
Yeah, it's very smooth and very fruity. You're not getting like some of the harsher compounds from the hops, like some of the vegetal stuff. Things like myrcene, which is like a large part of many hop profiles, but it can kind of come off as unpleasant when it's in high levels when you're trying to do double dry hop, hazy double IPAs and that sort of thing. So this has enabled us to kind of skirt around that problem and kind of just amplify it a little higher than we could otherwise.
Sure. And I think we've been seeing this in the chat too, Brian, but this can art's elite as well.
Yeah, so the art is so the name of the beer, Vermillionaire, comes from a local artist who unfortunately he passed away recently, and this beer is kind of in honor of him. And so the art on the front is his art. So he kind of did this art style, and he came up with the term Vermillionaire to kind of describe like kind of trashy southern like lifestyle stuff. So you're living like a king, but down in the bayou, and sort of the negative aspects of that could come about. But
I resemble that.
Yeah, it comes from the around where we are in Lafayette, in that area, there's the Vermilion River. So being a Vermillionaire.
Wonderful.
Nice. And you've talked about the terpenes, but there's also very choice hop selections in here, specifically Strata, which is a hop we've talked about, I think, a couple of times on the stream so far. A very particular, I don't even know what to call these, pelletization or different interpretation.
So we used we like Strata hops. I like Strata hops a lot. They come off almost as like grapefruit candy to me when they're by themselves. So we used, it's a product called Strata CGX. A lot of people who are in the craft beer probably have heard of cryo hops. They're like these enhanced pellets. So CGX is it's very similar to cryo hops. It's an enhanced hop pellet, but it's produced by Crosby hops. So they started getting into the like the T45 pellet game, and that's their product line. They're doing some cool stuff. So they're doing Strata, which is really good. So we added that in here, and they're doing some new stuff too, which is cool. Like they've started making CGX of some of the New Zealand hops, so there's no other, producer doing that right now. So you can get Nelson Sauvin CGX from them, which is really cool. So we've played around with that too a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may not know, but I may be wrong with this, but I believe cryo is a owned term and owned process by YCH, right? And is
yes.
that why?
Yakima Chief, or I think they're just called YCH now.
Yeah,
but
Crosby's great. The brewery that I work at, we use Crosby for most of our hops, and the brewers always talk about how great it is to work with them and the different products. And
they're a cool company. They're also very enterprising. They've been like upping their game the last few years and doing all kinds of cool stuff. Which is cool to see.
Yeah, people, hop farmers could just rest on their laurels and just grow a ton of Citra and Strata and Mosaic and Simcoe and these hops that everybody wants, but they're constantly trying to innovate. And like you've already mentioned, these innovations help brewers, utilize less hops or utilize hops more strategically and help, number one, make better beer, but number two, also affect the cost of making these amazing beers.
Right. And also just allow you to get those flavors you like from things like Strata, the New Zealand hops, but you're able to boost that even more, kind of like the terpenes, but like those cryos and CGXs can get you, more of that good flavor without some of the more vegetal stuff.
Definitely. It's awesome. So as we mentioned, you earned the title of Master Cicerone, and you actually did that this year. You're one of two people who were awarded the title two newest people. For those that don't know, there are 22 Master Cicerones in the world. It's quite the achievement. At what point in your beer education career did you make that decision? Like, I'm going to go for the highest level of that certification program.
It was pretty early on. It was probably about 6 or 7 years ago. When I found out about the Cicerone, and it's kind of like the beer equivalent of a sommelier. And I mean, kind of just from the beginning, I was like, well, I'm going to start going down this road and I may as well aim for the top. We'll see where I land, but, just go for it. Let's see how far I can get. And well, I made it to the top rank. So yeah, it was not easy though. It was a tough road to hoe. So, but yeah, I took the Master Cicerone exam 3 times before I passed, which is pretty common. The people who pass, it seems like 3 is a common number.
Yeah, we had Jen Blair on a stream earlier, and she's an advanced Cicerone. She has taken it Master Cicerone twice and failed twice, and will be going for her 3rd this year. I believe Brian Reed, who's another Master Cicerone, he lives here in Pittsburgh. I think he said he took it 2 or 3 times himself. Even for people that are at that highest level, it's no easy feat to get advanced Cicerone. There's only 120 of them or something like that.
Yes.
So what is that road like? What is that step from advanced Cicerone to Master Cicerone like?
From advanced to master, to kind of step back a little bit. So going from certified to advanced, I remember that was very jarring. It's like a steep ramp up.
Yeah.
That test, that also took me 3 times before I passed it.
Wow.
And then the Master Cicerone, it's kind of similar to the advanced Cicerone, like kind of the level of stuff, but it's like doubled to 2 days, and you're still just expected to know anything that they throw at you, So if you've taken the advanced Cicerone exam, where it's just a full day of essays, and tasting panels and the oral questions where, you're going into a room with someone in the industry and they're asking you all these particular questions and giving you beer and food pairing scenarios and just all kinds of stuff like that, and you have to do that 2 days in a row. It's just really tough. So you have to really just be prepared and have the knowledge for just anything that they could throw at you during that exam. And it's tough.
Once you got your master certification, you should have gone back and asked for a refund for all those fails. I'm here now. I'd like my money back. Thank you. Amazing. Speaking of going through that program and learning all those things to pass all those tests and go through it, what's something that you learned during that process that surprised you on that road? And a follow-up question to that, what's something that you learned from that you use every single day?
Sensory analysis. You have to do a lot of that, just practicing and going through the motions until it's just ingrained in your mind, like how to, take a beer, pour it, analyze it, taste it. That stuff I use a lot because I work in a production facility. Sure. So for quality control, that's important. And so I get a lot of practice doing that at work. And yeah, beer and food pairing was like a big thing. That was like kind of one of my weak spots. So I had to learn and figure that out. And I was kind of surprised, actually. That was a surprising thing, was actually kind of whenever that finally clicked.
Yeah.
I could kind of figure that out because it just seemed weird and foreign to me. Like, I don't know, just the way my mind works, beer and food pairing just never really made sense for the longest time. Like, I'd read beer and food pairings and even like just the little explanations that whoever's doing it would do, I'd just be scratching my head, like, and I'd try it and I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's still hard to like even explain like what's happening, whenever you're doing that.
I imagine that it probably gets more intense, but I feel at the very beginning It's pretty, like, beer and food pairings seem pretty subjective. Like, as long as you can rationalize why you think something would go with something else, they're like, yeah, that's all right, that works.
Yeah, there's an element of that, and it also just kind of, it has to do with the person who's, tasting the beer and the food
Right.
together, like how they're perceiving it, what they can taste, and just how
Right.
they feel about those flavors, because one pairing to someone, you're like, oh, it tastes like, ambrosia or something. They may not like ambrosia. I don't know.
Right.
Or something. You're like, yeah, but ambrosia sucks. I don't like it. So why would I want that? And the other person's like, this is delicious.
I have another follow-up question to that one. So jumping into beer, I personally love beer and food pairings. And so what is your favorite pairing that you've ever had or that you've ever made?
Ooh, that's a tough one. One thing that I really like to do, here's a beer and food pairing actually. So what I was always pretty comfortable with was beer and cheese pairing. And Neal's Yard Dairy Stilton with a bourbon barrel-aged barley wine. Like, we started doing bourbon barrel-aged Grand Reserve, which is a barley wine that we do.
Awesome.
Those two go fantastic together.
You had me at Stilton, and then you had me again at barley wine.
Yeah, which is like a classic. There's nothing unique about that one. That's one, like, if you study beer and food pairing, that's just like a textbook one.
Matching intensities of those big. Yeah.
There's a reason for it. It's delicious.
Yeah, I had for me, it was a barley wine. I can't even remember what the barley wine was, with the Kalamata olive. And it was so uniquely delicious. It was like the salinity of that olive, and like the sweetness and the Rolo and the toffee and the like leather and wet tobacco of that barley wine all rolling in together. And it blew my mind. I wanted a barrel of olives and a barrel of barley wine.
That sounds interesting. I'll need to try that one. I like Kalamata olives. That's like my favorite. My favorite of the olives is that one, when they're in the salad or something.
It's an elite olive for sure.
Yeah, they're so good.
Elite olive. Very good question in the chat. Sam says, what would you pair with this Vermillionaire?
So kind of breaking this beer down a little bit, the big, like, top notes that I get off of it reminds me of pineapple, like fresh pineapple juice. And so kind of going on that and matching the intensity level, I was thinking Hawaiian pizza would be good, which might be controversial for some people if you don't like it. But if you're a pineapple and pizza person, or if that offends you, also, like, kind of going with the intensity, and then also with an IPA and hops, you could do like roasted chicken with like herbs, with a intense herb component. Orange chicken, I think, would be good too. Kind of going, like takeout Chinese dishes. You're kind of matching the intensity, and then the orange citrusiness is going to go well with that pineapple, because they both can kind of, even though it's citrus, it kind of gets lumped in with tropical fruits because they kind of work together well. And there's a citrusy component in the beer too. If you're going cheese, I would do aged white cheddar, like Seaside cheddar or something like that, something that's sharp, nutty, can stand up to the Vermillionaire. You're kind of teasing out those fruity elements from the cheese as well.
I've just had dinner, but you're making me hungry.
Yeah. Same here. I'm thinking what kind of cheddar do I have in the fridge right now?
Can I get a Hawaiian pizza here before I finish this beer?
Yeah, I want to know, chat, what's your opinion on Hawaiian pizza? What's your opinion on pineapple on pizza? I think it would actually, I think that's a very good call out. I think that would be very good with this Vermillionaire, although I am not very much a pineapple on pizza
big fan
person. Yeah.
Big fan. Yep.
Okay. That's not what I wanted to click. Answer live. There we go. So you've earned that certification at the top of beer education. What happens next in the line of your educational path? Did you just want to enjoy it a little bit, or is there something else like BJC BJC judge, or is there another thing in the educational path for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have like a big plan after I finished. You know, which I had thought about it before, but no, I mean, I think I'm always learning, you know, like industry wise, like what breweries are doing, what new
Yeah.
products are coming out, trying new things. So I'm just focusing on that. I am a BJCP judge. I did see someone ask that question. So it was earlier this year, I ranked up to national. So I'm a national BJCP judge as well. So yeah, just continuing doing that. Maybe I'll get master certification for the BJCP as well. So I have that, you know, that to work on. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have like a formal certification goal or anything beyond this. I'm just going to keep learning.
Did you
As I
get to
work in the
judge at
industry.
did you get to judge at GABF this year?
No, I've never done that. I need to work on that. I know there's
Is
like a
it
lead time. It's like 2 or 3 years, I think, or something like that,
oh
you know,
wow.
for judges, because there's a lot of people who want to judge. So there's like a, you know, a wait list, I guess you get put on. But yeah, that's something I would like to do.
No judging like judging your peers, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And I saw this earlier, and I'm just going to throw it out, Brian, because I'm curious of the question too, or the answer to the question. Somebody was wondering if it was the same artist for your can that does Ghost in the Machine.
No, this is a different artist. He was the Boozy, the guy who did who the Vermillionaire art came from and the beers in honor of. He didn't do any of our art at Parish, but he was known by a lot of people who work at the company.
Got it.
No, our label art's done by someone else.
Yeah, I think it's illegal to choose your own nickname, but that's a great nickname.
Yeah, I don't know where that nickname came from, but that's what everyone called him.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas for nicknames that I would like to be called, but I'm gently dropping them.
That's not how nicknames work.
Usually. I know you
You're
can't do it.
To pick your own.
I know, but I've got so many good ones.
Yeah, you're gonna end up with wasn't that the episode of Seinfeld where George is like, I wanna be called T-Bone, and then they ended up they name him after that monkey. This is a bad way to reference Seinfeld. Somebody in the chat probably knows much better. And we're going to go to the chat for their wonderful question. So Nick in the chat has a great question about the SIP series that Parish does. It's a series of Berliner Weiss style beers. So Nick was curious what
I would just call them heavily fruited sours. They're not. I don't know. It's you're stretching the definition of Berliner Weiss. I think it might say that on the cans, but if I'm being picky about styles,
yeah. Well, please do. What inspired that Sips series?
I don't know if we had like a specific inspiration. We just decided we wanted to try doing heavily fruited beers because it sounded like it would be good. And so we went for it, you know. And then they kind of morphed into, after we did a few of them, the series kind of morphed into leaning on wine grapes paired with a complementary fruit for the wine grape. Like we have Pinot Noir, black currant. We recently did Sauvignon Blanc, passion fruit. We've done a lot of like one-offs too, like in the tap room that are just brewery only, like Riesling pear, Chardonnay apricot. So kind of that, but there are some others where we didn't do that. Like Two Fingers Blue was just blueberry lemonade, basically. So yeah,
you've talked about doing tasting and like sensory analysis of beers, but when you're choosing those combinations, is there a sensory analysis that goes into ingredients, or is it just kind of like, let's go with the common knowledge, you know, this wine grape will go with this fruit? How does that process work?
You start with common knowledge and then, you know, test it out at the brewery just to make sure that is, you know, yes, we do like this combination and it does work, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Isaac,
Yeah,
I saw you.
you saw me have. I had a question. It's gone. I was thinking about a couple of different things. But there's somebody, Sean, in our chat actually has a question. Are there any plans of variations of Ghost in the Machine in 2023?
Yes, because we just crank out variations of Ghost all the time. We'll have some that we've already done return, and then we'll have some new ones. Like, I can't say exactly what's going to come out. Number one, because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but number two, because there are like new ones we come up with that I haven't, none of us have even thought of yet, that it'll pop into our minds, I don't know, a few months down the road, and then it'll appear shortly thereafter. A lot of those combinations, like, they aren't like planned out a year in advance, like
Yeah.
the kind of the turnaround time is quicker for them. So, but yeah, it's fun, doing variations on Ghost because it's a strong brand for us. And then it's just fun kind of taking the double IPA, taking regular Ghost as a canvas and then just changing things up on it, to make cool different recombinations. It's a lot of fun.
Right. Excellent.
A couple more questions from the chat. Cheryl, as she asks every night, is Parish dog friendly?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we have a tap room if anyone's passing through the area or anyone who's local who hasn't been there yet. We have a tap room. It is dog friendly. If you like bringing your dogs to the brewery, that's cool. So yeah.
Do you do brewery tours at the brewery?
We do on Saturdays. It's like 12 and is it 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? It's on our website. It used to be 12, 1, and 2, but I think we changed it. I think it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock now, and they're free.
Oh,
so you
wonderful.
just show up and in time to jump on one of those hour blocks, and you're good to go.
I was gonna say, except for Saturday, those are like credit union hours.
What an odd joke. So I think somebody asking if you do the tours yourself. I remember looking at the website. You guys have a tour person, right?
I do not. Yeah, we got a tour guy who does the tours on Saturdays. I used to do the tours way back in the day when there were only like 4 of us working at the brewery. We used to rotate weekends and do the tours.
They're like, Ryan, when you get your Master Cicerone, that's when you can stop doing the tours. And you're like, all right, guess I'm gonna do it.
Oh, good follow-up question about, is Ghost in the Machine named from the Police album?
It is not. So the name comes from, so Ghost in the Machine, the Police album name originates from mind-body dualism in philosophy of the mind concepts, with like Rene Descartes and dualism. The Ghost in the Machine was kind of like, it's that whole debate about, whether the mind is, like a whole separate entity from the body, or if it's just, chemical processes in the head. So if it's just an extension of, physicality. So there's that whole debate. So I think it was Gilbert Ryle who was kind of mocking Descartes, the idea that like the mind would be some whole separate thing, almost like a soul separate from materialism. So he referred to it as a ghost in the machine, and he was like mocking it, and it became like a popular term after that. Kind of this is a tangent, but sometimes like the mocking, term for something becomes standard vernacular for something, like the Big Bang. That was actually term was coined by someone who was ridiculing the concept of like the singularity bursting forth and creating the universe, but now everyone calls it that, and they're not making fun of it when they do.
Right.
It's just become
Us laymen.
Good branding can come from anywhere.
That's true.
Another one of those is soccer. There was a distinction between English football or Australian football, and then they had what they called association football. and they would make fun
Yeah.
of the association football players by calling them sock football, soccer. And then
Yeah.
that's how it became soccer.
Yeah, the British, they like kind of had this tendency to call stuff, they put that ER at the end of stuff, you
Yeah.
know. So like because it was just called like a sock for association for short. And then
Right.
like, yeah, you just put the ER, so soccer. They do that with a lot of stuff.
That is a big British thing.
Hmm.
I'm just going through my head.
British and Canadian. I feel like hockey players do that too for every nickname.
Yeah.
Or
Throw it.
Yeah, throw an SEY on the end of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Belsey.
Yeah, Jonesy.
Yeah, exactly. Jewel in the chat is asking, Ryan, need some help here. I'm thinking about an umami brown ale. How can I get savory into the beer to offset the maltiness of the brown base?
Ooh, interesting. Malty. Well, if you make a high enough ABV beer, you could age it in a barrel and you might develop some umami character over time. Another thing that popped into my head was putting mushroom powder in the kettle. You ever had like those umami powders?
Yeah.
Where they use it with like ground mushroom? I don't know. Do some weird stuff. Like that's just a weird idea that came to my head. I've never tried, but that could be interesting.
I've had some stouts with mushrooms in them. They give
it,
some Nightcap, I think, did that mushroom stout.
Yeah, 5440.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there's
another
a couple
brewery. Let's see, Jester King did a beer. Is it called Snorkel or something like that, where they put mushrooms in the beer? I mean, it's a funky sour, like all the Jester King stuff. But I actually like that beer. I thought it was pretty good. But
my buddy made sausage out of that stout with the mushrooms, and it was delightful. It was the weirdest thing I've ever tasted, but it was like so good. Yeah, that's the powder might even be a better way to do that. Makes me want to ask one of my questions. Ryan, have you ever had Vegemite?
Yeah. Vegemite and Marmite.
Okay. Well, Vegemite's better. That's like Hawaiian pizza. Everyone has pineapple on pizza. Except nobody likes Vegemite or Marmite.
Vegemite's wonderful.
Yeah, I love Vegemite. So my father's Australian. I'm Australian by birth. So I have grown up eating Vegemite and toast.
Okay, yeah. That's like the classic thing, huh?
Yeah. Vegemite, toast, butter. You want to, sharpen it up a little bit of cheddar cheese or any kind of cheese on there. Makes it absolutely delicious. And I had it in my head at one stage or another that I would try to convince somebody to make a Vegemite goza. Is that something you would be interested in doing?
A goza sounds
You don't have to answer right now. We can keep in touch.
You're gonna try and get me to brew this beer, huh?
That's right. Yeah.
I was thinking like a stout or something, for that, or maybe the brown ale. Like you could kind of do it because Vegemite's like bitter.
Salty.
It's bitter too, though. Like that's another like big component. So it's like you could substitute some of the hops for it.
But also too, it's made from brewer's yeast, like all that vitamin B and stuff. Like I'm pretty sure it's a brewer's yeast like byproduct.
Yeah, I believe you're right. That's what I've heard too.
All right, so I got one more question from the chat before we wrap up here. Ryan, we've talked. You're head brewer at the amazing brewery Parish, brewing lots of beers to ship all around the South. You've earned yourself a Master Cicerone certification, and you're a national BJCP judge. But what are your favorite styles? Favorite styles to drink? Favorite styles to brew? Is there a difference?
No, for me they're the same. I like to brew X, and I also like to drink X, and that would be like European multi lagers. I think that's what I like gravitate to the most. Yeah, Märzen's. Czech styles are kind of having a little moment right now. So like Polot Mavis, Tamavis, Tamavi Lejak, all that kind of stuff. Like Czech dark lagers, Schwartz beers.
And I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for it. But I'll also just take a good old tenor, pale ale or pale lager.
Yeah, those are good too. It's kind of one of those things they say, like the dirty secret of craft brewers is like they're all drinking Miller Lite, and it's kind of true,
Hams is what I'm seeing
Yeah,
a lot.
like
Yeah.
a lot of us, like we just gravitate to. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of a thing though. Like when you're just doing all these hazy IPAs and stuff, just these, palate blasting,
Yeah.
like flavor profiles, and then like your pastry stouts and just barrel age this and that. It's like, yeah. I see someone said Miller High Life. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Just want a little treat at the end of the day.
Something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Need some easy drinking, light on your palate.
That's right.
Just nice and effervescent, clean.
And then when you jump back into all the other stuff, when you do have your pastry stouts or like your, shave your tongue with a razor blade after you drank an IPA kind of things, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Balance. It's balance. It's balance. You're seeking balance in beer, and you should seek balance in life, and brewing and sensory analyzing big double IPAs and pastry stouts is great, but you got to balance it out with a High Life or just a good old crispy corn American lager.
Yeah, I see a lot of people in the chat are saying Bierstadt Lagerhaus. Yeah, they make awesome stuff.
Yeah,
I got to go there. That was
CBC
last year. Yeah, it was when CBC was in Denver. I went over there, so I think that was that 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, delicious.
Isaac and I were also there. We might have been there on the same.
We may have crossed paths, ships in the night, and didn't even.
We may have. If you saw two goofballs looking like this walking around with boots of Hellas, then
we were actually restricted to upstairs because we had given them our driver's licenses, and they do that so you can't walk away with the glass boot.
Yeah,
right. I made the joke, which they must hear this every single night, and I was like, so these boots weren't made for walking. As they took my ID, they did not appreciate it. Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, shout out to Bierstadt. Phenomenal brewery.
Yes. Delicious stuff.
Tonight we're talking about Parish. Thanks to Parish for putting this awesome beer in our 12 Beers of Christmas box. Thanks, Ryan, for joining us. Anything to plug before we get out of here? Where can people find Parish beer?
All over the South. So we're distributing East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Atlanta. We've got a couple other spots to see. I know we have stuff in Denver too, through like Crooked Staves distributor. I think Seattle and New York. We're up there as well. And we also do direct to consumer. I think there's 9 states and maybe more than that you can order online and get it shipped directly to you. So if you're in one of those states, check it out on our website. If you're interested in our beer, we have Ghost in the Machine. A lot of the specialties we do as well, you can order on the website as well and get it shipped directly to your door. We'd like to be in more states. It's kind of like distributor, laws, each state law. So determines whether we can or cannot do that in your state. And then other than that, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, see what we're concocting next.
Those states are Alaska, DC, Kentucky, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Vermont, Virginia. So
I knew DC and Virginia had to be. I'm seeing Parish beer all over right now. And I think everyone's all the beer nerds are going in on direct to door.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great news for me. I'm getting a case of this.
Heck yeah. Awesome.
That's
already
awesome.
Decided. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Isaac, I threw the link in the chat there, and I'm going to throw it in again in case anybody else wants to check out the DTC options from our friends at Parish Brewing outside of Broussard, Louisiana. Ryan, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it was a pleasure being here, hanging out with everybody. Cheers.
Cheers. Everybody join us again tomorrow for a conversation with 2 awesome folks from 2 awesome West Coast breweries. we'll also be drinking another beer. Surprise, surprise. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.
Hey,
Thanks,
good night,
Ryan.
everyone.
Thanks, Brian.